Hello and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm Christiano. Well, tonight is our 17th anniversary show, and as we do every year, we have the town manager of Chelmsford and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and the planning board. However, this year, the chairperson of the school committee isn't feeling well, so we have the vice chairman of the school committee on the show tonight. And this is our 329th Politically Incorrect show. So hopefully by now we've learned a little bit of what to do. I don't know, but tonight, since we have all these local luminaries on the show, we're going to probably talk entirely about local issues. But if we have a little time at the end of the show, we'll talk about some other state and national issues. And that's always fun for me, so I hope we do have time. So with me tonight, we have Town Manager Paul Cohen. How are you, Paul?
Good, Tom. I thought we were going to talk about the French election.
Right, yes. Yeah, I know. And the guy who wants to tax millionaires at 75% rate. Exactly. Wow. The new president. Well, Paul, this is your, 13th time on your show, the lucky 13.
Great.
Let's hope it's lucky.
Yes.
So.
We'll know in an hour.
We'll know in an hour, yes. And we have a nice cake here, so we'll enjoy that after the show. And so thanks for being here again, Paul. And this will be the 6th anniversary show that you're on. Mm-hmm. And for those people at home who might be wondering, every year I make an 8x10 of a photograph of this panel, and then I frame it in an 11x14 frame, and it's in the entranceway of my home. So this will be the 6th time you're in the pictures there in my home.
It'll be over a third of your anniversary shows.
Yes, right. I know. So it's coming up really nice. So thanks a lot for coming every year, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Good to be here.
And we also have Mike Rigney with us tonight. How are you, Mike?
Hi, Carmen. Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on the show in this emergency situation with Janet not feeling well. Mike is the vice chairman of the school committee. And how many years have you been on the school committee now?
This is my 2nd year.
Your 2nd year. And how's it going so far?
So far, it's gone quite well, I thought.
Great.
I think.
You don't want to.
We'll see. We'll see in a year how the rest of the town feels about it.
Yeah, that's true. So, but that's good. You like it so far.
I'm enjoying it,
great,
though, yes.
Great, wonderful. Thanks, Mike, for being here. Appreciate it.
Sure, Carmen.
And you're going to be on my wall of fame too.
I will now be on your wall of fame.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thanks. And we have John Kurland with us tonight. How are you, John?
I'm well. How are you, Carmen?
Good, good. Thanks. As everyone knows, John is the chairman of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen. And you just began that office about a month ago, right? I believe, in April, early April.
Yes.
And this is your 7th time on the show.
Lucky
so
7.
Lucky 7, like Mickey Mantle's number.
There you go.
A lot of Red Sox fans may not know that. But and so, John, this will be your first time on my wall of fame as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And we have Colleen Stansfield with us tonight. How are you, Colleen?
I'm very good.
Colleen is now the chairman of the planning board, chairwoman. Which do you prefer? Chairman or chairwoman or whatever?
Chair is fine.
Chair?
Yeah, that's usually neutral.
And so this is your 8th time on the PI show.
Wow.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
And the first time on the Wall of Fame as well. So
I know. I'm just love to see this wall.
Yeah, right, right. So it'll be 3 first-timers on the wall. So that's great.
There you
go. Not that anybody cares. I know. I'm just mentioning. I didn't even know I had mentioned it, but. Oh, somebody said, maybe Mike said, I should have a display of all those pictures sometimes, like at the town office or whatever, so you could see who the past chairpersons were of all these
the new
committees.
Performing Arts Center. You could have a display.
Yeah, it might be fun just to see that. So I thought maybe if we could start with you, Paul, about, since the big issue in town, other than the recent election, was the vote on the new fire station. Paul, I wondered if you could tell us what the next steps will be now that it passed at the town meeting. That was, what, a week or two ago, and just last week, I guess. And so now it looks like it's going to be a go-ahead for the new fire station next to the town offices. So, Paul, could you update us on this, what's going on?
Sure. The next step would basically be a reset. What we've talked about during the discussions up to that would be to bring some of the representatives of the neighborhood onto the building committee for that portion of the project, Yes. Much like we involved people from the neighborhood on the North Town Hall project, yes. And also with the with other projects that impact neighborhoods. So I think we'll do that, and hopefully within a couple of weeks we can put 1 or 2 neighbors on the committee. The next step then would be to hire a project manager, which is required under state law to help the town administer the project. And then that first step following that would then be the securing of the services of the architect and design team. And then once they do the work from there, then ultimately it would go to the planning board for site plan review. When site plan review is completed, then it would go out to construction bids, and then would commence construction. So you're probably looking at probably about an 18-month period total for, before one would occupy the fire station.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Paul. So when do you think it'll go before the planning board? Is that like 6 months away?
Yeah, I would think so. You're probably talking later this year, towards the end of the year, probably late fall.
Yeah.
I would think, because you'd have to go out there and you'd have to do some site work, as some borings, in terms of the material on the site, the development of architectural design drawings, so that when you go to the planning board, the planner is going to want to see issues such as elevation, lighting, traffic impact, drainage, and so forth. So
yes.
that will take quite some time.
Great. And how about the lights? The traffic lights?
That would also be part of the analysis as well.
And so those would be put in at about the same time this is completed.
Yeah,
they would be finished.
Right,
at about
exactly.
the same time?
You would want those operational when the station is complete.
Yeah, great. And the parking for those who want to go to the town offices. Once this is built, a lot of them would be parking in back, and then
no. Visitors to the town offices would still continue to park in the front. What we would do is we construct a parking lot behind the town offices and fire station for employees of the town hall and firefighters. So as one would regularly visit the town hall, the town offices today, you would still be able to park at the town offices. And then actually there'd be a retaining wall and separation from the town hall parking versus the apron for the fire station. So there wouldn't be any interference there on either way. So that's how that would go. And like I said, if there's an overflow, such as a night with multiple meetings at the town offices or election day, there'd be a new parking area below, like where people park today for the town election. So it would really be cleaned up, and also obviously they'll provide additional parking for the ball fields. And so overflow area as well. So, and the food pantry we envision would remain at the site as well. So when everything's done, it should accommodate all the needs, and in some cases be an improvement to what's there in terms of the parking situation.
Yeah. But when we have meetings at night, though, say there's a selectmen meeting and the parking lot is generally filled up there, that's what I'm wondering.
It wasn't last night. I think we had 5 people in the audience last night. It's quite a contrast. But
say
yes,
we do have people. Would they? I'm wondering. Do they park in back of the fire station once it's built?
Right. If you're
and
filling
then is
the
there
front,
an elevator
there'll
back
be an entrance
there?
and an elevator right into the that would be fully accessible to the main building.
So that'll definitely be open until what time, or is it going to be?
It would be open like the regular building. The building would not be locked until the meetings are over.
All the meetings are over. Yeah, then it would be locked.
Then it would be locked.
But the fire station would be open
next door. They'd be there 24/7.
24/7. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Well, any other comments about that topic before we move on? No? Great. John, could you mention a topic that you'd like to mention about the Board of Selectmen or the town that you'd like to bring up?
Well, I'm sort of on a campaign now to try to encourage people to engage in political discussions civilly. Okay, it seems as though in the last few years the nature of and the level of political discourse has gone downhill, so that people, instead of arguing the facts or the issues, are attacking persons, attacking individuals. So if Paul and I disagree on an issue, we can discuss it, and we can discuss our respective positions, and we may disagree at the end, but at least we know that we both are trying to do what's best for the town. And I'm not going to go around and say that that Paul Cohen is this or that or something horrible. And it's unfortunate, because I think that it demeans our town, it demeans the process, and if we can focus in on what the issues are, I think it's better for everyone, so that we have an intelligent discussion, as opposed to a third grade level of arguments. I mean, it's a big issue for me, and I'm hoping that people will start to pay attention, and with Facebook and other social media, it's very easy for people to be anonymous And
Well, on Facebook, though, I don't think it's anonymous.
I've-
At least I don't allow them on the Chelmsford
You
reps
don't.
and residents.
But
Yeah, they won't be on there.
Or there's other
But
social
other
media.
sites can.
There's
Oh,
other
yes.
sites that,
Oh,
that
yeah.
have, you know, people who,
Oh,
who
yeah,
have
for
names
example, the
that,
patch now, you don't have
well,
to
I wasn't
have...
going to say that, but
Okay.
that's fine. No,
Well,
But
the,
you don't have
the
to have your
newspaper
full name.
outlets, I think it's safe to
And
say
the Lowell
newspaper.
Sun.
Right.
right,
Yeah.
and the Independent online too.
Yeah.
It-
And,
so-
oh, yeah, those outlets, you don't have to,
So, you know,
unfortunately.
if
Use your real
someone
name.
wants to be anonymous, they can be anonymous and take whatever pot shots they want to. And it just, it really reflects negatively on everyone who's involved, and it doesn't advance the discussion, and that's the important thing.
Yes.
If my arguments are more persuasive than someone else's, that other person shouldn't start calling me names.
Yes.
And by the same token, if someone else's arguments are more persuasive than mine, I can assure you I'm not going to start calling people names.
Yes, yes.
And it's, you know, so that's a big issue for me. It's not a selectman issue, it's a town issue.
Townwide,
It's a town
yes,
issue.
yeah.
Although I would say, I think the discourse at town meeting was excellent. You know, it was very respectful.
Yes.
I mean, it really, I think the town really showed well with the
Yes.
2 nights of debate and discussion at town meeting.
I agree.
So I think that
Confusion
really,
without the clickers on the first
Right,
night,
right.
that would have been so much smoother.
right.
But yeah, I
Right.
thought it went pretty well,
Yeah.
especially the second night was very smooth.
Well, and the first night was smooth, I mean, at least as far as the discussion
Yeah,
went,
exactly.
because you had a very, very emotional issue, and a lot of people who were personally involved were getting up there, and their arguments were very civil, and they
Exactly.
deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yes, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, John, about these other sites, like newspaper sites that allow people to post anonymously, because I think that reduces the level of discourse, because once you are anonymous, you could say anything and not worry that somebody's going to sue you or come back at you, because you're not standing behind what you're writing. Whereas on Facebook, which is why I like it so much, everybody that's on the Chelmsford Reps and Residents site, yes, you may not like every comment they make, but at least I know they're using their real name, and most often it's their photograph with them too. Not all the time, but most often it's a photograph. And that, I think, raises the level of discourse. And given that I manage that Chelmsford Reps and Residents site, if somebody puts a really unkind comment there that I think is unwarranted, I'll delete it, because I'm going to raise a level of discourse on my own. I just did that today to somebody. I thought it was an uncalled for remark and a very personal, hateful kind of remark, and I deleted it. I don't feel we should have that either in Chelmsford. I think we could do better than that. And as far as Chelmsford Reps and Residents are concerned, I'll try to have it there, and I hope everybody takes what you said to heart, John, and we do raise a level of discourse in town as much as we can.
Well, I just think that town would benefit from it.
Yes.
I think we all would benefit from it.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, because I find it upsetting to read personal attacks of people. Thanks. Mike, what's going on in the Chelmsford School Department that you'd like to talk about?
Well, we've got all kinds of things going on in the Chelmsford School Department, but the one thing I think I'd like to bring out tonight is that next Tuesday we're having an open session. We'd like to have people come and join us here at Parker and talk to us about whatever's on their mind. The meeting will not be televised. There won't be any votes taken or decisions made. It's strictly an opportunity for the school committee to listen to the people who want to come and share their thoughts with us.
Yeah. And what's the date of that, Mike?
Tuesday the 15th.
15th. And what time did you say it was?
I believe it's 7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock?
And-
And at
and you
Parker,
can-
right? Which is
Yes,
unusual.
yeah,
to have
we're
a
trying to move
meeting there.
around.
Move around, yeah.
We did one at McCarthy. We did the most recent one in the Learning Commons up at the high school. There are a lot of nice facilities in town, and we're going to try to visit them all.
Nice. And would it be at the cafeteria so they park in back of the school?
In the past, we've done them in the libraries, I think, rather than the cafeteria. It's generally the chairs are a little bit more comfortable.
So, okay. So where would people park, just so they'll know, and enter the building?
You know, that's a very good question. I
Oh,
don't
you
know.
don't- yeah.
We'll get that information
Oh,
up
great.
on the school website, which is
Great.
seeing over 1 million hits a day.
And please
one of the
post
other
it.
things that's happening.
Yes,
That
yeah,
many?
great.
Hits
you really
a
get a
day.
million
Yeah.
hits a day?
A
Wow.
day?
I know
or
I
a
get
No,
it
it
every
might be
day.
a,
A
it
month.
might
That's
be
I
for
a,
think you mean a
no,
month.
it's,
Yeah, I think you mean a month, maybe.
Oh, a month. Okay, wow.
Yeah, even that's a lot. Oh, yeah, yeah, because
that seems like a lot.
I checked into it.
I check it
The
a
lunch
lot.
schedule.
I check it a lot.
The lunch every day, that's what I do.
So if you want, you could post that on the Chelmsford Reps and Residents
Absolutely.
group as well.
Okay, we'll put it
and
there,
the
too.
Chelmsford Patch, you could post it there. And that's a great thing, too. You don't have to pay a lot now for media. You could just do a lot of things for free. And that's why I think campaigns, the cost of campaigns could go way down, because you don't really have to pay a lot for media now. So, in fact, you could even have your own TV show if you want, and do a half-an-hour show if some of the candidates did this year.
I think the question is, will anybody watch?
Right? Yeah, well, I think they will. For candidates, anyway. I think they will. I don't know about shows like this, whatever, but I hope they do.
Do the show and post it to Facebook. You're more likely to get a little more exposure there.
Yeah.
Just leave it on telemedia.
I know, I watched a lot of those candidate shows. I thought they were interesting.
How many were there exactly?
I don't know exactly, but I'd say 4 from one candidate, 2 from another, and 1. Did Nick do one? I'm not sure. But
I think he did a video.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily a show.
So maybe 6 shows and
Well, it's
1
catching
video.
on anyway.
1 video. So thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Thanks. We'll have more time to talk about more issues. Colleen, so what's going on with the planning board that you would like to begin the discussion with?
Well, there's not a lot on our agendas lately, but there's some stuff coming down the road. I think basically what we've done, I think town meeting was a proof of it, that we've been working on this bylaw review committee and trying to get some of these bylaws more concise and less left up to interpretation, maybe some zoning changes that allow for mixed use things and that sort of thing. So the things that we brought, and it all came from the master plan. So the things we brought forth, we have had little to no opposition. So we were talking about that before the meeting last week, and I was saying, wow, they must really think we've done a decent job then. So,
well, you pulled the overlay district.
well, that was, and the funny thing is that was something that was wanted to be looked at over on 129, if anybody doesn't know about the overlay zoning district. There was a group of residents that came out and really were very vocal about they didn't really like the direction we had gone. So we did decide to pull it, but not for the reasons that we thought it was a bad idea, but because if we had gone to town meeting with it at that point, it would have been voted down and we would not be able to look at it and change our direction. So we pulled it, we said, let's take it back, we'll sit with the residents, talk with them, see which way they want us to go. We did a little straw poll at the meeting, and we were asked, okay, we were allowing for some small new construction, maybe a restaurant or things like that. And we said, would anybody be okay with amenities within the existing buildings with no new construction? And several hands went up. So there's going to be some more work done to that. So it might be something that we'll look at just ever so slightly differently, and so there's hope.
Great. And I see the CVS is coming along nicely in the center.
It's flying.
It's flying up, yeah. It's going to be finished very quickly, I think, at this rate.
Yeah.
So that design is going to look very nice, right?
It's very New England. They came in with something that looked like it was from San Jose, California, and it was orange and stucco. But we worked with them, and they had a whole lot of designs that were, they've done in New England in nice towns and communities. So we brought some pictures in and we said, we like this one, we like the roof over here. And they were able to put it together for us for, not a huge, larger cost. Than, but it's going to look really nice. And they're also, even though they're only in that one area where it's marked off now, there is going to be some off-site improvements to the parking lot with some trees, some upgrading lighting and landscaped islands to help the flow of that parking lot.
Great.
Hopefully in anticipation of Stop and Shop, the whole plaza hopefully being redone at some point in the near future. That'd be great.
We don't know what's going to happen there yet, right? Because that's privately owned for one thing, right?
It is.
But you haven't seen any proposals yet at all,
I haven't heard of anything, but I do know that Evan and I believe Paul, you can speak to this, that have been sort of pursuing something to be done, and I don't know exactly.
And also we've gotten some grant money recently, as we talked at the Selectmen's meeting last night. We've got a $10,000 grant from the state to look at the issues of housing needs in the center of the town, and also we'll be getting a grant from NIMCOG of about $8,000, I think, to look at the pedestrian and parking situation in the center. Because I think, as Colleen alluded to, I think there's a lot going on in the center right now with the underground utility project underway, the town hall restoration, the Performing Arts Center, the work we're doing, the town clock and the church steeple, now the work just approved for the schoolhouse house, the toll house, and the cemetery.
Yes.
But I think you see the next phase is going to shift down, as Colleen just noted, to the Stop and Shop site.
Yes.
We anticipate certainly within months that there would be a plan submitted for the redevelopment of that site. And obviously the concerns with the Oddfellows building, what's going to happen to the Oddfellows building. And so I think what we'll see, and I think Jim Lane alluded to it last night at our board meeting as well for the selectmen, is I think this whole notion is going to be, the future, the renaissance or redevelopment and master planning process as called for in the master plan about the town center. As you see, there is so much going on there. And what we anticipate may come out of the Stop and Shop, which is what Colleen's referring to, is probably some type of a mixed use, meaning that the site already has retail with the Friendlies, the bank, the new CVS, and then there may be an element of housing in the center of the community, which may result in the demolition of the current building. The other alternative, which we've talked about and is a concern, is by right under the current zoning, they could just bring in new tenants to the current vacant Marshalls and Stop and Shop building. The difficulty with that is it's not going to be the tenants that you would find, for example, in the new Westford development right at 495 and 110 at the Four Corners in Westford, where people say, oh, they're going to have an upscale, fashion store, and they're going to have the hamburger places and so forth. And the problem with the difficulty, as we've heard from Stop and Shop, and I think it's valid because we also see this in other communities such as Tewksbury, is that type of development tends to be, the different types of tenants. And so you're not going to get the Barnes and Noble and so forth, and certainly Stop and Shop's not going to lease to a Wegmans or Whole Foods and so forth. And so it tends to be kind of the dollar type of stores and the surplus stores, and I'm not so sure that would add a lot to the downtown of the community. So I think what you'll see with this grant money is we'll sort of get ahead of the planning process, and then when Stop and Shop comes forward with a plan for the redevelopment, then at least we'd be better prepared, for the community dialogue of how to proceed with that going forward.
And when do you think the wires will be buried in the center, Paul?
I think you're talking at least a year away. What is complete now, and in fact we anticipate by Memorial Day, if not by the 4th of July, is the road surfacing will be all repaved and completed. Right now what you're seeing is a lot of the gas main work, which is independent of the utility line work, because we've told them that we're going to resurface the roadway, so they came in and said, we want to put our gas mains line, because generally we don't allow them to open the road for a few years after we resurfaced it. And also the water district did some water main work. So now that the main lines of conduit has been pulled, as well as the underground vaults, what needs to take place is they now need to bring in individual service connections to all of the properties in that phase of the center. That'll probably take a good part of probably to the end of this construction season. Only then, when you've made all the new connections, can you then disconnect the overhead lines and then take down the poles.
Yes.
So that's what's happening, and National Grid appears to be on track. Comcast is getting up to speed. The town, we're working with to secure a contractor for the town work. Where the difficulty right now lies, and John's aware of this, is with Verizon, because Verizon, you remember the whole thing is funded from surcharge on your utility bills. We have plenty of money collected on the electricity bill, we've suspended that surcharge. However, the Verizon surcharge is based on landlines. And as people have gone to wireless and therefore dropped their landline or switched over to a Comcast or a Fios in these bundled packages, but through the internet, there's no surcharge on those phone service. So the amount of revenue coming in through the landlines, like the number of landlines, is diminished. Where we're now taking in less, I think it was $86,000 this past year. You can imagine you don't get a lot of underground utility construction with $86,000. So at this point, they pretty much exhausted the funds, and now we're working with them to proceed with the work in advance of the next few years' collections. Because otherwise it would just remain at a standstill. And we don't believe that was the intent of the law, and we also don't believe it is the letter of the law. So we're trying to resolve those issues with Verizon so that the project can continue to move forward.
Wow,
Otherwise, everything will be off the poles, but the Verizon landline, and the pole itself, and that would be unfortunate to be looking at that for 3+ years.
Yes, it would be. So let's certainly hope that doesn't happen. It's not expected to happen, right, Paul?
Right. Well, we're making a very strong effort to see that it doesn't happen. As I said, we're at a bit of a crossroads with Verizon right now.
Yeah, because I think the town center is going to look beautiful once those wires are down, and the Chelmsford Center for the Arts is going to be completed. Have the grand opening maybe July 3rd.
Yeah.
The new steeple in the First Parish Church and the town clock is working now. There's bricks being put in the center and the walkways.
Yeah.
We're getting some nice restaurants in there. Hopefully we'll get more.
Yeah.
The Odd Fellows building, hopefully we'll get somebody nice to come in there and lease that.
And then last night there was a discussion at the Historic District Commission, which was meeting downstairs from the Selectmen about putting a bandstand on the Common. And some of you may have seen that on Facebook.
Oh, nice.
And I guess it was very well received at the Historic District Commission.
Good.
So I imagine they'll come before the Selectmen in the near future and talk about that effort, you know, and hopefully within a year, because historically there was a bandstand there.
There was one that was permanent.
Exactly, and so I think that would be a nice, you know, for the summer concerts and the holiday events too. You can see how that could be used for the holiday prelude and some
Would it
of
be
the
big
other
enough for
activities.
Santa's house up there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
We could do that, exactly. So it's
You mean
just-
we're not going to use the toll house for Santa's house?
Well, that's,
New renovation?
that's just the storage shed.
We get a lot of people come out for that Santa get-together,
Oh,
the
yeah.
hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah,
right?
the hot
Paul
chocolate,
and I
yeah,
dish out
right.
hot chocolate.
Till we run
And-
out.
Yeah, till we run out, and the lines are huge.
I'll
And
make an extra next year. So
Oh, my God.
ready to be there.
well, I wrote a little poem about Chelmsford. It's not a big deal or anything, but it mentions the Chelmsford Historical Society. So I read it at the Chelmsford Historical Society meeting, a board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they suggested I read it on my show to share it with the people of
Because
Chelmsford.
you're now a trustee, right?
Well, a member of the board
Member of the
over there,
board,
yes.
that's right, yeah.
So I go to all the meetings now, and
Right.
anyway, so they thought I should read it. I don't know. Would you mind if I read it? It's not too long.
Go ahead. Show.
I knew that was going to be said when I asked that, because every time I say, is it okay, they say, it's your show. That's a good thing about having your show. You
There
can
you
do whatever
go.
you
That's
want.
right.
So, well, anyway, here's a poem I wrote, and it's about Chelmsford because I love Chelmsford. I've been here 35 years now, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful town, and I agree with Money Magazine. It's either the 21st or 28th best in the country, except I would maybe put it up at first or second, but I'm prejudiced because I live here. So anyway, it's entitled Chelmsford, and it's by me, Carmen Thomas Christiano. It all began way back in 1655, when only a few Chelmsfordians were alive. They struggled to survive throughout those early years, tilling the fields as they fought back their fears. The Parkers, the Byams, and the Adams and the Thoreaus all lived in this quiet little town as they stayed very close. 3.5 centuries have now passed, and our last names are many and diverse, yet we all get along as we gather and converse. Yes, Chelmsford is a town that we all love and admire. You can find it here, whatever you desire. The residents are kind and friendly, for the most part anyway. They say hi, even if they don't know you, from June through May. The many acres of conservation lands and parks are green and open, from the many hiking and biking trails to the fields that are a-slopin'. The superior schools are first rate, and all of the teachers are said to be great. The 5 town selectmen always return your calls, and beautiful local artwork hangs at the town halls. The Adams Library is always warm and welcoming and filled to the rafters with anything you could ever want, including books of many chapters. The McKay Library in North Chelmsford is wonderful as well. Its many local visitors will surely say it's swell. The open space stewards build and maintain our many trails as Eagle Scouts build their useful projects with some wood and a few nails. The softball and Little League fields are located along Chelmsford Street. They're well-groomed and spotless and make the delicious days of youth particularly sweet. The Historical Society and Garrison House Association help preserve our glorious past. The Conservation Commission and many other groups ensure that we preserve the things that will last. Our center and north town halls are currently being renovated and preserved. For future generations of Chelmsfordians, this historic gift is well deserved. Yes, Chelmsford is a wonderful town. I'm sure we can all agree. How lucky we are to live here, peaceful, healthy, and free. So that's it. So,
Very good, Tom. Very
anyway,
nice.
anyway, thank you for putting up with me for 2 minutes there. But hopefully the people at home at Chelmsford, they know that I and I think everybody in this panel loves this town of Chelmsford and will do everything we can to help keep it the wonderful town that it is, right? Are you all agree on that?
Sure.
Great.
That's why we're all here.
Yes, right.
We're certainly not doing it for the money.
Oh, John, I'll pay you after the show. No, I'm only kidding. And I have to stock market this past week. My money is greatly diminished. Hopefully on a temporary basis, though. John, maybe could you give us another topic of the selectmen or the town that you'd like to talk
Well,
about?
I'd like to give a shout out to a number of different organizations that have done a lot in town always, but recently there have been some things. We have a new community garden that will be opening up in North Chelmsford on Watton, and there were a lot of volunteers. It's going to be terrific. If people have not seen the one at Sunny Meadows, it's really a wonderful resource for our town. I think we're one of the few communities that have a handicap accessible community garden, which I thought was really sort of extraordinary. And so, you know, Phil Stanway and all of the people in the Chelmsford Open Space Stewards deserve a lot of credit. We had people from the Department of Public Works and the North Water District who were helping so that there's a water source now there. They've dug sort of a well type of thing. And that will be, you know, I guess they're going to be putting some topsoil or loam or something on it and then rototill it, and people are going to be able to start planting their gardens right away, and that's terrific. Also, we had the Historic Society, which you were at, and Paul and I were there.
Dinner,
Saturday, in which we gave the Guardian Award to Linda Prescott, which was very well deserved, and Becky Warren is the new president, and you know, you guys do a terrific job. There's a lot of things that are, you know, of such historical significance in our town, and to have an organization that is looking after these things and trying to help preserve them and educate our children about them, you know, that's a terrific thing. As far as the selectmen are concerned, we're going to be having, hopefully Monday, if not shortly thereafter, depending on availability of personnel, our input session where we're going to be doing our goals and objectives for the next year. You know, we've actually been pretty fortunate that we've attained a lot of our goals in the past. There are some things that we still want to do, but the one goal that we've had on the agenda for probably since you've been here, Paul, pretty much was the fire station. And we're glad to see that that is going to be proceeding, and it really resolves a long-standing concern in the town. So, you know, maybe we're going to talk about what we do with the space after the fire station is torn down, the old one. Yes. There's been a lot of talk about moving the Dutton House down there and having Chelmsford Housing Authority basically lease it and renovate it and then build a nice park for the library.
Yes.
Being a library trustee,
yes,
I'm sure that would be something that
would be great. We've been looking into that. And as Paul knows, we have meetings about it.
So, you know, from every aspect, I'm just so optimistic about everything that's going on in our town. There's really very little to look at and complain about if you're really looking at what we've had to accomplish, what we have accomplished, and what we intend to accomplish.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, John. Thanks, Mike. Could I ask you a couple of things about the school department that I might have mentioned to you last night? What's the status of the custodians? How are they doing? I read posts about it, and some people say, oh, they aren't as good. But I noticed Parker School here seems to be as clean as it always has been.
I think,
what do you think?
There's been some adjustments as once we started, and it was a little bit rough, to be frank. I think we're seeing things are getting better. There was just a shuffling of personnel back at the end of January, and I think that shuffle itself illustrates some of the difference between what we had before and what we're trying to do now. I think before, changing personnel in the middle of the school year would not have been considered. From a strictly school perspective, that doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that Aramark has brought with them, for good or bad, is a more corporate outlook. And what they saw was a situation that they thought could be improved, and they didn't see a need to wait until June or July to make those improvements. Since the personnel changes have occurred, we've generally been getting pretty good reports. At this point, talking to Dr. Tiano, it sounds like the principals, for the most part, are happy with the people that they have at their schools, their day person especially. The schools we're starting to get some cleaning projects done. As you know, the summer was mostly trying to staff up, so there was not a lot of organized cleaning going on. Over the spring breaks, we got a little bit more of that. I think you are starting to see some of the differences in the schools. They're shaping up. We're not there yet. As one parent said to me just recently, you know, she said, I've been critical of the custodians, but I have to say at this point it's not really a train wreck anymore. And I think not really a train wreck is not where we want to be ultimately.
But it shows improvement.
But she was trying to say something
Yes.
nice. So I'll take that in the spirit that it's offered.
Yeah.
And I think we expect continued improvement, but it's moving.
Yes, great. Could I ask you quickly, just in the news in the past week, there was a bomb scare, I guess, at the high school. Could you tell us, update us quickly as to what happened with that and how was it resolved, and did you find the perpetrator yet?
As far as I know, the perpetrators have not been identified. The school committee got emails from Dr. Tiano several hours after he was made aware of the situation. He was brought in. It was found, I guess, at the end of the day. The kids were released normally.
It was found at the end. They mean the message, right?
The message was found towards the end of the day. The kids were released normally. That evening, the custodial crew was asked to search the building. The following morning, Dr. Tiano, the police department, and again, the day shift, the custodians all went through the building together. I understand the police had a dog, but I'm not going to say that definitively one way or the other. Nothing was found. It appears to have been just talk. I think we can be glad of that.
What was it? Something in a bathroom wall or something like that?
It was a, you know what, I don't know the form of the message. Yes, it was a written statement that there was going to be a bomb the next day.
Well, I'm glad that was resolved well and everything.
I think one of the things there was that they had a protocol in place. This happened a year and a half, 2 years ago, and at that point, it was a little bit more of an ad hoc response. The team learned from that. They have a written protocol in place. They followed it this time, and I think it's that continuous cycle of improvement that you want. Even on something like this, which turned out not to be an actual threat, more of a near miss, you can still learn from it. And I'm sure I'm sure that the administration and the police will sit down and talk about what went well this time, what can be improved next time.
Wonderful. And just quickly, I was reading in the newspaper that we're sharing a food service director or something.
Yes.
Is it with Bill Ricka?
And Ms. April Lasky is currently the director of food services for the Bill Ricka Public Schools. Kathy McWilliams, who's the business manager for the schools, had contacted Bill Ricka originally a few months ago when a grant from the state opened up for basically regional collaboratives or collaborative work. That grant didn't get funded, but the conversation led to us kind of coming to a slightly unusual arrangement with Bill Ricka, where we make a payment to them. Some of that money goes to Ms. Lasky. Some of the money is pocketed by the Bill Ricka School Department for their own use. And she will spend 15 hours a week then working with our food service district. She's a certified nutritionist. She's got experience in placing point of sale machines in the schools. This is something that Lowell did about a year ago. They saw an increase of over $1 million annually of revenue. So, this was after Lowell had outsourced to Aramark. Aramark came in, did the point of sale installation, and basically reaped the benefit of that increase in revenue.
Why do you think there was an increase in revenue? Was there better food?
I don't believe the food necessarily changed there. It's better tracking.
Better tracking.
Yeah.
So somehow
people are able to
additional
do
$1 million
more
came in through better.
You're not handling cash anymore, Tom, and also it makes it more convenient. And also, particularly people with subsidized or free lunch, you no longer have that identification. It's everyone just passes a card. Much like, I mean, it's funny because it's been done at colleges for years.
Right.
For the lunch program, and now we're getting it in the elementary.
Oh yeah, you don't want any
schools.
stigmas or anything with
Exactly.
anybody.
So it's really a great way.
So that sounds great.
Right.
Hopefully,
So we're asking April to come in. She'll be working on that, getting point of sale installed. Also doing some mentoring of the people that we have in place now, training up, and we'll see where we go
improve the food as best as we can, and no machines with sugary drinks, right? We eliminated those, didn't we?
Right. There's actually two different initiatives occurring in school food, and one is kind of our own change that we're trying to drive. The other is the change from without that Beacon Hill has imposed upon us with the rules about what can and cannot be sold. So we'd already begun that process, that shift. I think we'll continue that, and I think there's more to talk about there. One of the things, the Herald, of course, just had a big story on it the other day, and I think one of the details that sometimes gets overlooked is that these changes don't necessarily apply to the entire school environment unless the school committee chooses to apply them across the board. By regulation, they'll apply during the school day, but there have been concerns that the snack shack at the football games won't be able to sell pizza anymore. That would be the case if the school committee chose to extend these regulations to that situation.
We got to have pizza.
I would predict at this point we will not extend.
All the money.
But there's plenty.
I thought that our politicians on the national level said pizza was a vegetable.
Yeah, right. The tomato certainly is.
So there's.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
But ketchup was considered
a vegetable or something. Yeah. Well,
there's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
But no more bake sales, apparently.
Yeah, I know. I think that's going overboard personally, but what do I know?
Election day. What are you going to do on election day?
It's a big fundraiser.
It's
a fundraiser for the.
Well, you can have it. You should be able to have it in the afternoon, if it's not
during school hours.
If it's not during school hours.
Jeez. Oh boy.
You want to hit the peak voter times too. So.
Yeah. Well, we do have an obesity epidemic in this country now. Did you see I just posted links to articles in the Chelmsford Bicycling group on Facebook and also the Neshoba Valley Peddlers group on Facebook, both of which I manage. The estimate is that like 42% of the country in like 20 years is going to be obese in this. And it's just too bad. We have to do something about it, which is true. But a lot of it, I think, is exercise.
Exactly, the other half of the equation, right?
Exactly, and so you can't, unfortunately, we become such a high-tech society now with a lot on computers that the kids aren't going out and playing as much as they did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was thin as a rail because I was always out playing sports outside. Now a lot of kids are playing video games and it doesn't burn up the calories and you tend to get obese.
Well, even, and Mike can attest to this, even just the having the kids, everything is scheduled now. You don't just throw your kids out in the street and there's a pickup game in the neighborhood. I mean, that's what we did. We kicked the can, kicked ball, whatever. And Mom made us at lunch and said, get out. And that was it. But
I don't know why
you just
they can't
don't have
do that anymore, but I understand
There's a
they
lot
don't.
of parents that both work, and the kids' sports are scheduled, and one's on one side of town, one's on the other side of town, and it's it's difficult.
Jeez,
and then the focus on the standardized testing, and you're removing the phys ed from the schools as well.
Exactly.
I think that's a huge mistake. I protest
we
that.
had it every day.
Please don't do that. We need recess for the kids.
Extend the school day and put phys ed.
Definitely.
I'm all for that.
Right, exactly.
In fact, we should
So if we extend the school day, are we gonna?
Sure.
Are we gonna have the teachers work longer for the same pay, or are we gonna?
Well, the
we're
teachers
gonna have
can go.
an override to pay the extra.
Bring the gym teachers in.
Right?
Exactly.
To work the last couple of hours. Big pickup games out in the whatever. There's a way we could work that out.
I'm sure we'll talk about it. There is more testing coming. This park is going to replace the MCAS in the next couple of years. They're trying to get tests not only for the math and ELA and science, but broaden it, social studies, along with the teacher evaluation changes that have come down, are also asking for teachers to be evaluated based on their students' product. And obviously that presents challenges for people like music teachers, art teachers, PE teachers who don't have kind of a standardized test. Yeah. So we will be talking about how you build portfolios, how you look at work across disciplines as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Colleen, could I ask, what else is going on at the planning board, or is there another topic you'd like to talk about, even if it isn't planning board related?
Well, we could talk about a million different things, but no, planning board's been a little quiet. We haven't had too many projects. There's a couple coming down the road that I haven't physically seen yet, but something over on Billrica Road, and then another project. On Billrica Road? What kind of project? Oh, you don't know. It's a subdivision. It's a definitive subdivision, but I haven't
we haven't had many of those lately, have we?
No, we don't have a lot of land left.
Of course, the housing market was down, but hopefully it's bottoming out. And I know some places in Chelmsford are doing, we held up very well compared to the country, especially compared to Florida, Arizona, and some of these other states, California. Right. I mean, Chelmsford's held up very well, and some of our realtors are doing very well still. Well, and John probably handles closing, real estate closings, don't you, John?
Actually, yeah, I do. Actually, mine are up.
You're up, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Is it a lot of refinancing? Because I got a great rate just recently. 3.125.
Some, but there's actually been a lot of purchases recently, too.
That's good news.
Yeah, and as everyone knows, John's an attorney here in Chelmsford with an office right on Billrica Road, right?
That's
Route
right.
129.
No new subdivision for my office, though.
Okay, yeah. Well, Colleen, is there anything else in the planning board? So what are you doing at the meetings
regulatory.
lately? Oh, okay, regulatory things, yeah. Bylaws and things like that, reviewing them. What about Oak Hill? What's happening with that? Anybody?
We get updates from Sue Carter, who's on the committee, and they've been they're reaching out to stakeholders. I was there one night when Scotty Hollow was invited, and it was packed. You know, they're listed, and nothing's been decided yet. They haven't spent any money yet. Yeah. You know, I forget who she was having in for the next meeting. She did tell us, I just forgot. But you know, it's moving along. I mean, I haven't heard any complaints. They're reaching out to look into every aspect of what could possibly go there.
Yes,
so.
yeah. How about the Brick House? They're proposing a little addition, right? At the Brick House, which is a restaurant right next to the bike path in the center of town.
Right, and that we haven't announced it yet, but we will at our meeting tomorrow night. They have sent us a letter asking to withdraw their project for now. They're trying to figure out some issues over in the area.
Oh, so they're withdrawing the project for now, did you say?
For now.
Oh. Yeah, one thing I talked to you on the phone about is parking, right? We just have to somehow figure out parking.
Yeah, and it might be something that
it's tight right now.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you know, Center Village zoning, when that was created, it might be something that might need to be looked at again. But again, I go over, and one of the things I wanted to see was, where are the lot lines? I don't think anybody's quite sure where the lot lines are over there, and do you know what I'm saying? So. That was a question that would have been brought up, but I think they're going to figure it out between them and their neighbors and see what goes forward.
How are we doing for parking behind the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, by the way, Paul? We had it repaved a year ago or something.
It'll all be striped when everything's completed.
And your path is there.
Yeah, the connection.
The path is there?
Path is there.
Path is there, yeah.
So Colleen's referring to a path over to the new building in the center, right?
Yes.
North Road?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a path there so that overflow parking could go on 9 North Road, right?
Yes.
And so that would add another 30 or 40 spaces maybe, because events, we're going to have a lot of people there, right?
Yeah.
At some of the weddings or whatever. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have people, weddings or whatever. I saw the fees for the new fee schedule, I don't know if you saw that or not. It looks pretty good, so. The building is looking wonderfully, right?
Yeah, it should be available and open for the 4th of July activities.
I can't wait to see the inside.
So in 2 more months it should be open, like July 3rd maybe is a grand opening?
Yes, there'll be ceremonies on July 3rd, yes.
Ceremonies July 3rd, and then there's going to be the grass planted in front, some sort of landscaping. Yep. And how about North Town Hall? Is that going to be delayed a little bit?
It's slightly behind, but because of some utility connections that need to take place. But that'll definitely be completed before the start of the school year, which is when they want to start the after-school program. So they should be on track for the after-school program in the fall.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we have a few minutes left. I wonder if we could talk about some issues that are dear to my heart, which is, well, the U.S. Senate race is very big in Massachusetts. It's probably one of the most high visible Senate races in the country right now, with Elizabeth Warren and Scott Brown. Any thoughts about that as to any candidates you like, or how you think the race is going to go? Any the Indian controversy or whatever? Everybody knows about that, hopefully watching at home.
They said she never used that. That's on the news today. So
I appreciate the fact that both parties have called upon the various PACs to cut out the negative campaigning. I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
But because imagine if they hadn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been pretty bad already.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, that goes back to what I was talking about early on. Look, it's so early in the campaign. We don't know what the issues are. Actually, Elizabeth Warren has a primary opponent, so you know her candidacy is not guaranteed. Really, I mean, it probably is, but but you know. I mean, you've got two very high-profile individuals. Scott Brown certainly exploded on the national scene when he took over as a Republican from the Senate seat that Senator Edward Kennedy held forever. So, you know, it's certainly fun to sit back and watch all this stuff.
Do you have any thoughts or preferences that you could mention, or would you like, in terms of a candidate? That's fine if you don't. I mean, I just wondered.
I'd like to hear what their positions are on some of the issues that are going to be coming up.
Yeah, great.
I think the trend you see is that they tend to try to run independent of their party, in a sense that they don't disavow their party, but yet they basically tout their independence within the party, which is kind of interesting on both sides, which is interesting in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Scott Brown has been taking some moderate positions, right, which is a lot different than, say, some Republicans in the southern part of the country, which is very right-wing, you might say, would never agree to some of the things Scott Brown did. And I think that's good because he's representing Massachusetts, and Massachusetts, if he wants to get reelected, he has to be more moderate. I don't think a very right-wing Republican would get elected, nor a very left-wing Democrat. I don't think. I think Elizabeth Warren, she has a very good knowledge, I think, of Wall Street and the financial markets, from what I've been reading, and I think she would be somewhat of a moderate too on the economic issues. And on gay marriage, that's popped up as a national issue now too. As you saw, the Vice President of the United States said on Meet the Press this week that he's in favor of gay marriage, as did a couple of cabinet members. And President Obama said his ideas are still evolving on that. I'm in favor of gay marriage, and I think they should have equal rights along with everybody else. So that could be a big issue in the presidential campaign. But I think Elizabeth Warren would definitely, I think, of course, we have gay marriage in Massachusetts already, don't we? I think we do. But anyway, I think we're one of 6 states maybe at the moment, which is good because I feel it's terrible to discriminate against anybody the way they're born. And any other thoughts about this U.S. Senate race? We didn't hear much from you, Mike, on that.
You know, I am a Democrat. I will be supporting whoever the Democratic nominee is in the race. Marissa DeFranco has to get past a convention. She needs 15% there to be on the ballot. Actually, I thought it was interesting that there was a Rasmussen poll, I think today, that had them both at 45%, which seems like not very many undecideds. Quite a ways out. We'll see how that plays out. But
45 both.
Yeah,
that shows how tight the race is. Right?
Well, it's tight, but also it looks like a lot of people have already made up their minds. I would have guessed that the undecideds would be a little bit higher, and I would have guessed that Elizabeth Warren would be having a little bit more trouble with name recognition. In a lot of Senate races, the challenger doesn't have that kind of a profile. So whether that puts her over the top or not, we'll see.
Yeah. Colleen, any thoughts about the Senate race?
No, I'm staying neutral.
How about the big one, the presidential race? We have a really big this year. Well, it's every 4 years, but any thoughts about that?
Go, Paul. He looks like he wants to say something.
No, go ahead, Paul. Be my guest.
I think it's It's going to depend, I think, on what happens in the economy the next few months. I think that's the key. It's difficult to seat an incumbent president, as we've seen.
Yes.
What tends to do it is an economic situation.
Yes.
And I think what you're seeing is now it's become a degree of the job growth, but it isn't enough job growth. You know, and I think that's the question: is what will happen over the next few months?
Yes.
And I think because people generally tend to vote with their pocketbook, and so
Yes.
you know, I think you'll really clearly see that once you head into the fall.
Yes.
You know, in terms of what's going on with gas prices, what's going on with job creation, and I think, you know, if those things tend to go favorable, then again, it's difficult to unseat the incumbent.
Yes, I agree, Paul. I agree.
And the good news for the president, I guess this was the first month with a budget surplus since 2008 for the federal government. So that's a positive sign.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the
Go ahead.
auto industry, I mean, remember how that was?
Well, no, wait a second. I
And
thought
then
Governor Romney,
then Romney fixed it. Yeah, that
he's
was
the
good.
one who saved General Motors, isn't he?
That may be Romney's biggest problem, is that if you believe in everything, if you're willing to say everything, I don't know how he gets any separation from the president.
Yes.
And so
yeah.
then it's a choice between an authentic person and somebody who's
Yeah.
something like that authentic
Yeah.
person, and I don't see that working well for Romney.
But he does have many different policy positions than the president, right? I mean, you would.
He has
well, I
many
think-
different policy positions,
Yeah, especially
sometimes
in
on the
s-
same topic.
Especially on the social issues. For example, gays, for example, the gay
Yes.
rights. And I think President Obama is much more for gay rights and gay equality than
Yeah,
I think
I'd like to
Romney
see him be a little
is.
bit more. I don't know how you can
Right.
say your views are evolving.
Well, you can't-
But what
does
was
that mean
Romney
you,
the
you haven't
governor
thought
when
about it?
Massachusetts got gay marriage?
Yeah, he could have been, but now he's saying he's not in favor of
I
it, though,
know.
really.
And running
I'm
off
saying-
He could have
advisors,
vetoed it.
gay
Yeah.
advisors.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
because he
sometimes
was-
actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. And in terms of economics, we're going to hit a little roadblock at the end of this year, aren't we, with the tax cuts expiring? You all know that, right? So it's going to be a huge impact to the economy if all of a sudden a lot of taxes go up, and at least to every bracket. I mean, that's something they're going to have to face by the end of the year. But I think Romney would say, let's stick with all of the tax cuts for everyone, notwithstanding the deficit. And I think President Obama would say, let's just go back to the rates for those who make over $250,000 a year. I think that's his position, I believe. But for the others, he'd like to keep them at the lower rates for the time being.
Well, he's better than the new president of France, right?
Yeah. The new president, you know, if you're taxing somebody at 75%, they're going to move out of your state. If other states are going to tax them at, say, at 30%, it just doesn't make any sense. And in Europe, they're so small, they could just move to another country. It may be hard to move to another country because of your culture or whatever, but a lot of wealthy people will do it, I'm sure, if they were taxed at 75% rate, don't you think?
They'd
And
boycott
what
the
would that do
country.
to their economy? It would hurt it significantly. And actually, tax revenues would decrease when you do that. That's the problem with increasing.
Well,
It's
that's,
not-
that's the claim.
but it would.
Well, look,
Well-
there's a difference. There's a difference
But you-
between taxing the very, very wealthy at a level lower than the middle class. I mean, when Warren Buffett says
Oh, yeah.
that his secretary pays a higher percentage
Oh,
of
yeah.
taxes than he does,
Yes.
that's problematic. On the
Yes.
other hand, you're talking the other extreme where you know the new French president wants to tax millionaires at 75%. Nobody in the United States would ever even consider 75%.
Yes.
That's, you know,
And it would
beyond
be
the pale.
terrible. But I agree with you on that Buffett rule. It is wrong, I think, for those who are making a huge amount of money to be taxed at a 15% rate just because they call it capital gains, rather than a secretary who's taxed at a 28% because she's actually working, or a carpenter, or an electrician, or a teacher. It just or a lawyer. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Especially lawyers.
Yes. Well, on that note, thank you very much for participating in the 17th anniversary show of the PI, a Politically Incorrect show. Thank you very much, Paul Cohen, for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mike Rigney.
Carmen, thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
Well, it's my
Kurland.
pleasure.
Thank you very much, Colleen Stansfield.
Thanks for having me.
And hopefully you'll all be back very soon in the fall or next year when we get together. I do have a special show coming up in 2 weeks, another Politically Incorrect for a member of the U.S. Congress is going to be on the show, so please watch for that. We have, thank you very much, George and Azora, and Larry, and our director, Pete Padula. If you have any comments on the show, please send me an email at tcristiano@comcast.net. Ciao.